You made it to part 4 of this Blender tutorial series, which is excellent. You've made it to... This episode is going to be kind of an extension of Blender. We're going to use a website called Photopea, which is a free version of Photoshop, just to really get the most out of Blender. We're going to make our own NORMAP, which we're going to use to make these engravings at the edge of pencils. That is quite a common design trait. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and make a NORMAP that looks like this. Like I mentioned before, NORMAPs are basically just 2D fake lighting depth images. So it's a 2D image, as you can see here, and with this 2D image and these specific colours of pink and cyan, dark blue and purple, predominantly purple, as you can see, this basically allows lights in our scene to cast shadows and light up specific parts of the image. They're brilliant, and it means that you don't have to use extra geometry to make these sorts of details. You just need to get an image and then it will do it all for you. It's used for like objects from farther away, or just to add really fine detail that won't really be seen up close. But it just gives that image texture a little bit, well, the model as a whole, a little bit more to it. But anyway, let's get right into it. So we are going to be trying to make this, you could call this a displacement map or a height map, because anything in white is kind of dipped up and anything in black is dipped down, so that it's kind of, the white is protruding and the black is the opposite of protruding, is kind of indented. But yeah, we're going to try and replicate this using in Photopea. So let's go over to your search engine of choice. And we will be using Photopea to try and make that map, and we're going to convert that height map, displacement map, whatever you want to call it, into a normal map. So without further ado, let's begin. So what you're going to do is going to set the pixel count to 720 by 720, not too high quality, not too low quality, and we're going to name it pencil metal, and we're going to go create. And we're going to make sure we go File, Save as PSD, and then we're going to save it in our designated folder with our blend file in it. So pencil metal, it's going to save as a PSD file, which I believe is a Photoshop file as well, and then just click save. So now we have it, we know we have it. Now, just starting off with a white background, let's add in another layer that we can edit upon, or 2 or 3. So now we have these empty layers that we can add whatever we want to, and let's begin by getting the brush tool, making sure it's set to a black color, and then what we can do is, 15 is a good size, but we can adjust the size by tapping the bracket key, I believe it is. What we do is we press the left button on our mouse and we hold shift, and then we bring this line down to about there. That looks good enough. And what we'll bring it to the center of our frame. That's actually, if we press Ctrl Alt T, we can actually scale this up a little bit. Let's zoom in by pressing Ctrl plus and Ctrl minus to zoom out. So let's hold Alt, and that will increase everything evenly. Let's say to about there. If you want to adjust one side, just click Shift and then use your left mouse button. Control Z, similar to Blender, to go back a space, but let's go Control Alt and increase that again. Yep, that looks good enough to me. Let's zoom out, that looks good. Let's bring it to the middle. Then what we do is we start duplicating it. Make sure it's along, make sure you're seeing this red line so we know it's along the middle, but it's not too big a deal if you skew up a little bit, but best to try and keep it as close as possible. And space them apart roughly about the distance as we see in our images here. See, we're doing these little middle engravings here, so space it out about that distance roughly, and that'll be good enough for now. So what we do is we hold shift and select all of the layers we've made so far, and then what we do is you go to this button up here, make sure we're in this move tool mode, and we tap that button, and then it will line them up all evenly to what we want. And then we click right Yeah, right button. I may have said right button before, but I meant left button. Right button is select, and then we go merge layers with the left button on the mouse. And they're all connected now. So what you can do is you can duplicate that again, saves us a bit of time, duplicate that again, and then we select all those layers and we press that button again just to space them all out evenly. And there we go, we now have our row of indents. So what we can do now is we'll duplicate one layer just as a backup, just in case we need to come back to it, and then you can hide it by tapping that I button down there, merge all those together. And then we go Control T, and now we can adjust the size. Hold Alt to make an even transformation. Let's move this to the edge there. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and have it so this distance is the same gap here. So what we're going to do is, I guess we could shift and then move it along. That will adjust all of the ones next to it, but as long as they're all even, that's what matters. That looks good to me. Yep, that looks good enough. So now let's just make sure there's a little bit of room there, so we're not overlaying any textures, so we're not losing any of our drawing off the page. So now we know, just to be safe, there's a little bit of white there. And yeah, so this should be able to wrap around our cylinder quite nicely. But what we want to do is, because these black lines, I guess you'd say, they are just straight from white to black, that will cause our normal map to just go from one surface directly to another without any kind of blend between the two, which is what we see here. You want to try and make it so it's a nice smooth engraving rather than just immediate drop and then cut out like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, let's duplicate it just to be safe, hide that layer just in case, and then we go Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur I find is the best. Let's go 2 pixel blur radius, and that will be good enough for us. Brilliant, so we've made the first part of our engraving. So now we will move on to these upper bits here. So let's get our paintbrush tool again, and let's set that to a size 20, and then what we can do is hold Shift. One note, let's press left click on our mouse. I probably should have mentioned that before. So make sure you have a different layer selected as well, and we go left click, hold Shift, and drag out this line along here, just like that, or something like that. You can go thicker or thinner, however you want really, it's a creative decision. And what we do, we will duplicate that again, roughly to the same distance. Let's just continuously look at reference just for reassurance. And let's go again to roughly the same distance, and then what we can do is you can select, how many is there? 3 or 4, let's go 3 for now, why not? Actually, let's go 4. So what we do is we select all those layers and we press this equals gap. And what that will do, it will do it on the horizontal axis rather than the vertical. I need to select that one and move it up a little bit, just like that. What you can do is you can press, if you select an object, and when you're in this move tool, you can just tap your arrow keys and move it along just to really make sure it's lining up. Now all those are lined up, what we can do is merge all those together. Hold Alt and duplicate it, or you can just duplicate it by right clicking and duplicate layer. Hide that layer because we just need it as a backup, and then we can actually just duplicate it by holding Alt and moving it over down to the bottom. That looks good enough. And what we can do is we can merge these layers together, and we will apply that same filter again, but this time we will make it a bit stronger to about 6. Let's go 6. How's that look? Yep, that looks good enough. Brilliant. Now let's go File, Save, just so we don't lose it. That is going to be our height map, or displacement map, whatever you want to call it. So let's go File, Export, Export as JPEG, and we will name this Base, just because it's going to be the base for our normal map, or displacement map, or height map, whatever you want to call it, and then go Save. Brilliant. So let's just save one more time. Now we don't need this, so we'll go to our downloads. We will take our pencil metal base and we will bring that into our folder of choice where we have a blend file. Just ignore these were ones I did in the past. I can actually get rid of those now because I've demonstrated what they do. Now we have our base metal material. So what we do now is we type in on any search engine, we type in normal map generator. I find the smartpage.net, the SmartNormap 2.0 is the best one. So what we do is we go load, and we find where our pencil metal base is, and we load that up, and boom, we have the makings of a good normal map. We can increase our bias if you want to make them more prominent. Let's say 80, we can always adjust it in Blender. And let's increase the blur a little bit, not too much. Let's go 5. It's a little bit, not too much, not too little, and then we can go save. Now we go right click, save image as, and we can name it similar to this. Let's just copy metal base, and let's go Command V and name it normal, because it's our normal map. So let's go normal map, why not? Save, just like that. So now you should have made a pretty good looking normal map, which will be for our metal casing, if I haven't made that obvious already. Let's go back to Blender. Now we can go into the shading tool, the shading tab I mean, and let's make our way up to the metal. Click on our normal circle and type in normal map, just like that, or you can go Shift A and search normal map there. And then we can go with this one. We're not going to be using height, we're going to be using normal data. So we can extend from the color there, and we will type in image texture. Open image, and we will use this. Now as you can see, this doesn't look the best. It's kind of got this weird ghosting effect around the edges. What we want to do is, I believe I mentioned before in the previous video, we go non-color for normal maps. And it's looking a lot better, but we do not want these engravings down here. We want them halfway through, and we want to, where's the rest of our normal map? So let's go to UV editing, and let's zoom in on our pencil all the way here. And what we want to do is we'll extend this out just so we can access the shader tab. There we go, just like that. What we want to do is you want to select all these faces, so we could do that, or we can go to, let's just do one thing, let's go to, we're in edit mode at the moment, so we can actually select these faces, so maintain that mode. We'll go to wireframe and we will select all of those. Make sure you're on face select mode and make sure you're selecting all these little circles here, which are the faces. Then we'll go back to shader view, and now this is what our normal map looks like. So let's select all these points, go to move, and we will bring it down to the bottom there, or as you can see in the corner up there, it's minus 0.5 something with a few more digits after it. So let's go minus 0.5 because it's about half the image, and boom, there we go. Let's go back to the shading view, and just like that we have our end of our pencil. And in fact we can maybe even bring the strength down, maybe. That looks okay. What you also do is go Control T, and then we can adjust this normal map if you like. We can make it, we can get fewer of these. Let's make sure it's a, as you can see, it doesn't really line up with our normal map texture. So let's best keep it at 1 just for now. Yeah, 1 for now. We can see there's a little bit of overlapping here, but that's fine. It's a small detail they won't notice. We can just change the location by messing with the x-axis, so if you just want to hide that from our camera view, that'll work. But yeah, that is our pencil, all made up with a procedural wood texture and a handmade metal texture up here. Now we can finally move on to rendering and animating. Before I go, I just remembered I was going to show you how to personalize this pencil by putting your name on it. So let's go back to Photopea. So let's just, you can type in Photopea and go back to that website. And let's go new project, and let's say it can have a height of 480. This can be very low, and let's say 1600. Why not? And then just type in your name up here. So my name is Leon Underwood. And tell you what, we can actually copy that, save it for later, create, and then what we can do is we will invert this background color to black because we will be making a alpha map. So black isn't recognized and white is. So what we need to do is we will get this text tool, stretch it along the whole of the image like that, and we'll go to the center frame here, and then what we can do is we can make sure our text is set to white, and then go Control V or Command V, I'm not sure exactly what it is for other devices, and then we will increase the scale, and then let's bring it more to the center. In fact, we can click off it and it should allow us, yep, to take it to the center. Brilliant. Now you can choose this text, or you can go back onto text, select it all, and then change it to whatever they have in Photopea. So I'll get back to you once I've decided on one. So I decided to do a typewriter sort of font, so I can increase that size to maybe 200. Yeah, 200, that looks good to me. And what we can do is we don't necessarily need to save this as a PSD, but if you want to, you can in the designated folder. But let's just go export, JPEG, Leon Underwood, and let's say alpha map, or just alpha if you want to do that. So yeah, save, brilliant. You can close that down. Brilliant. Now let's make sure we have it in the right location, just like that. And then yet again, what we did with the reference, we can go add image as plain, JPEG, just like that. Brilliant. It's a little bit big, so let's bring it down by a lot, 0.01. That might do. And then let's rotate it -90. Let's bring it out a little bit. What we can do is, worst case scenario, we can go to the rotate tool and just flip it around like that, 180 degrees, just by typing it in whilst you're holding your mouse button, and then that flips it 180 degrees, and that will be just fine. Brilliant. So let's make this into a alpha map. So what we do is we go over to shading, and we make sure that we can see it, and we plug the color into the alpha. That's a good start. And what we usually have to do is, because this is an image sent in, we don't need to worry about it, but what we usually do is in materials, you go viewport display and make sure it's on alpha blend and alpha clip, not opaque. Sometimes it might set it as that. It's the same for Eevee as well. It's a good thing to remember. So brilliant, now we have that as our alpha map, and let's make this a metallic material because we want to have well, let's make it like a gold engraving almost. So let's increase it to 1 on metallic, and let's make it kind of a hue like that, and let's decrease the roughness to about 1.5. That'll do. There we go. Now we have our gold material. Brilliant. So that will go perfectly along the edge of our pencil. Now what we want to do is we go to edit mode, and let's go loop cut and try and place in a slice that's just on the top of our letters, so we don't have wasted alpha maps. So the way I did that was went to loop cut and pressed left click on the mouse, and that would just leave a cut there, but we want to move it, so hold left click on the mouse and move it just to the edge of the fonts to about there. You can zoom in a little bit more if you want. Let's go minus X view, and let's get it perfect, because we're perfectionists. Brilliant. And then we can go face select, that and that, go delete. Brilliant. Now we just have a very narrow text image plane. So now we go over to the modifiers panel, add modifier, we go deform, and we go Shrinkwrap. Now what this allows us to do is take a object or an image or a plane, and it allows us to apply it to the surface of another object. Basically, like the modifier implies, shrink wrap is just like covering up something with like plastic or something, covering the face of an object with it. So what we do is we select the eyedropper tool and select the object we want to attach it to, and just like that, it's on the very, very tip of the surface. So let's increase this offset slightly by 0.01, just so it's just on the surface, not like molding into it where it can just vanish slightly. You can see kind of the textures together there, which we don't want, so we go 0.01 just above it. And then what we can do is we can apply that, and there we go, that's the text on the pencil. And to make sure it moves with it and it becomes one object, what we can do is we select this one, select the text, and then as the last object we select the pencil, and then we go join. But what I want to do is, the best bet is to duplicate everything, Shift D as a backup, and then have that in our backup collection just in case you want to change anything later. And now we can select our text, select our pencil, and go join. And they have become one in the same, just like that. We can also do the same with the rubber and the eraser casing. Or, rather than join, we can go parent to object. By what we do is we select the rubber, the metal casing, and then finally the pencil. Right click, and then parent to object. So now all this behaves as one object. They all move in sync together. In fact, we can move this reference to the backup now. But yeah, now you have your name on your model pencil, which should be in gold font. In the next video, we will turn our pencil into a short animation. So yeah, I'm just moving my camera over to my pencil all the way down here. It's a very, very small item, just to about there. And how big is that camera? Let's make this camera a bit smaller because it takes too much space. 0.2, something like that. So there we go. And yeah, we'll go over a few more things in the next part. But yes, I will see you guys there.